I want to tell you about my yard sale I had last week. Today it's raining. Last week it didn't rain. Perfect weather for a yard sale. Actually, too perfect. The weather was so perfect, a lot of people might go somewhere else and do something else rather than go to yard sales. Yard sales do best on a day that's overcast and it looks like it might rain. Those I found were the best. So I put my stuff out now, including this radio here. This is a GE Super Radio. It's a real one. It's not one of the fake ones. Um, it picks up AM stations like really well. It has a long ferret rod inside. But one of the things, I'm sitting there and people are coming by and this one guy goes, "Oh, you were in prison." And I go, "Excuse me?" He goes, "You're in prison. You got a super radio. That's the only place you can get them." I said, "No, no, no. The only place you get them in is in a prison. I was in prison. I was no. Sorry, pal. Uh, you get G Super Radio, back of a magazine if you didn't have a store near you that sold them. Um, I was it DX West or something West? Oh, it was a shortwave um, store. Now I hung at the shortwave store in Guilford, up in Park Ridge, and I worked there and I filled in and the whole thing. But they didn't sell this radio. This radio at that time was $30, and it blew the doors off $1,000 radios as far as AMDX, not shortwave, AMDX, and it's really good for FM radio. This radio was designed when you're in like way out in the from the city and you can't get any stations with a regular radio. I told you the story that years ago I used to fix 1935 radios for people at the lake. There was a big lake community, and they were on the other side of a mountain. And only really old radios with a good front end and a big loop antenna that was built into it would pick up the stations from New York. And then I found out the Radio Shack had a radio, and I got them to buy that. And then this radio was actually better than the Radio Shack DX unit. I call it a long distance radio. There's several names for them, but this guy, yeah, it's prison, and he says, "Before I left the prison, a guy offered me $120 for mine." I said, "Well," I said, "I'll sell you this one for $25. You know, I bought it for 30. I've used it a lot. I'll sell it for 25. I know it goes for a lot more money, but I'm not going to get involved boxing it up and going to the post office and shipping it and putting it on eBay." But that was the first guy that come by, and you get really cuckoo clocks that come by on yard sales. First of all, people that go to yard sales. Now I go to yard sales, so maybe I am a cuckoo clock. I buy DVD movies and hats, really good baseball caps, the better ones, and that's my thing. I'll walk around, I hang out, I talk to people, but I'm sitting there now. I'm on the other side of it, and the guy comes up and he starts talking to me about life and everything, and Social Security isn't enough money, and blah 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 blah. So I said, "I'm living on like $890 a month." "You can't live on $890 a month." I said, "You don't own a house, do you?" He goes, "No, they're too much trouble." I said, "That's why you can't retire on $890. I said, "You're in the right area of Pennsylvania, but you have to own a house. You can't rent. Rent has popped up over $1,000 here a month." Okay. Now in New Jersey, when I left, it was 1,024 for a small room. I don't know what it is now, but it's amazing the people that you bump into, and you explain them. You tell them, you put out your cards on the table and say, "Look, I own this house. I'm sitting out front of the house." I said, "I own this house." And I said, "You know what made retirement possible for me?" I said, "You see that driveway there? You don't see a car in that driveway." I said, "A car you think it gives you freedom, but it doesn't. Okay, it costs you a lot of money to have it. There's all kinds of problems involved in it." I said, "When you don't have a car, you suddenly have all this extra free time." Okay, and I said, "Here in Lancaster, we have a really good bus system. You can go anywhere you want by bus." Now, after I get my second shot next week, I have my bus pass. I'll be going around and seeing the different sites in Lancaster. Okay, and Lancaster's pretty big. the county, or the county of Lancaster. And because there's the county, there's the city, and then the county, and there's the city. And it gets very confusing when people just throw the name Lancaster out there. And they don't say Lancaster, they say Lancaster. That's because it's the Dutch hangover, or the Dutch hangover of how they used to pronounce it. So, but it's absolutely amazing when people talk about retirement here. Now, they've worked for many years, and they didn't ask for raises. They're very laid back here. Most of them feel the minimum wage shouldn't be raised when you talk to them. And I'm like, well, fine with you, but I keyed in what I made when I first started working. Let's say it was between $1.80 an hour, and I think I finished up in the sweatshop at $2.20. Now, if you put that in the inflation thing on the internet, 180 comes out almost to $12, $14, whatever. So that's what I was making. In high school, I took an electronics course. I knew electronics. I got a job across the street in an electronics assembly company, and they check you out the first day. They give you a couple different tests, wiring things up, and if you pass that, they bring you in full time. All right. Even though I was in high school, I was working 32 hours a week, which the town told me I couldn't work, and I lied to them and I told them I was only working 18, but I was actually working 32 hours a week. But anyway, basically, what people are being paid now is half of what I used to make. And the people out here, that's enough money. No, it's not. It's unfair. Now, if you talk to them long enough, you find out they never really made any real money. Okay, I think I got up to $29 an hour, something like that, years ago. I figured it out one time. Well, anyway, let's just say I got up to $20 an hour, 30 something years ago. And suddenly the people here in their trades, they're not really making that. And now truck drivers do pretty good here. But you talk to people, and the people are willing to talk. I don't know if they call it brass tacks or get down to brass tacks. In other words, they start giving you numbers. And you quickly realize that the people in Lancaster don't get paid what the people in New Jersey got. That's why they don't like people from New Jersey to move here, because they see prices as going up. They see more stoplights going in. And I learned over the years, you find out who's friendly and who's not friendly. All right, who's got a good job, who doesn't have a good job. When you meet a new person here, you have to get real quick to the meat of it. Are they real religious, or are they worldly? Okay. Now, the worldly people, they've been out of the state. They've been around the country. So when you mention something, they know what you're talking about. Okay. And retirement, I want to tell you, I told you before in other videos, which are now gone, that a lot of the problem is free time. You have too much free time in a day if you're retired correctly. Now, if you're still babysitting your grandchildren, or your daughter moves back in with you, and you're fixing her car for her, and you're doing, that's what I see. Okay, dysfunctional families. A couple people, their family's a little dysfunctional, but they do get on the weekends. They do go places. Okay, and the rest of the other people, they have excuses. Now, what I've been trying to do is get away from the radio hobby. Okay, that's my crutch. All right, I'm really good at radios. I can rebuild almost any part in a radio. If you saw the other videos before I deleted them, I rewound coils and all. What other people can't do, I can do. It doesn't matter anymore. Okay, what I've been trying to do now is to find the next thing that I'm interested in. See, that's the problem. Years ago, we were sitting at work, and one of the guys says, do you ever notice that as you get older, you go back through the same hobbies you went through? And I said, yeah. I said, you go back to tropical fish, shortwave radios, maybe even crystal radios. And the guy says, why is that? And I said, well, you're coming back at it. And photography. Don't forget photography. I went through that 3 times. You go back through the hobby because now you got a little bit more money. My first time through photography, I actually built an enlarger. And it wasn't the greatest, but it did work. and I built a light box, all the stuff I used in the photography, uh, the developing trays, all that stuff was something else that I bought in the store. I didn't have real developing trays. The little tank that you put the film into, that I did buy. I got that as part of a kit for a Christmas gift. But I went through the photography, tropical fish. I still have guppies here. You go back through the hobbies you went through, only with more money and more intelligence, more determination. So I'm sitting there and I said, I have a lot of hobbies. I was doing a lot of YouTube videos. I was going out walking, doing videos, and it's all basically the same thing. I started thinking to myself, well, I want to expand. I want to go take the video camera and like go places on the bus. Well, then the COVID came along, and COVID-19 amplified the problems that people were having. Like their marriage wasn't really that good. Now they're spending more time together, and it's creating a problem. A lot of people in the loneliness and being isolated, they started getting dogs and cats. Okay, so if you really look at it, it was like an acid test for your life. And I'm very good at doing hobbies by myself, and I can kill a lot of free time. But I still had 2 hours every day left over at night. I get tired, and I start working on radios, and I start thinking, I got a whole room full of radios. I don't want any more radios. And I'm trying to look for the next thing. And I want to tell you about retirement. I've talked to many people that are retired, and you have to talk to them for more than a few minutes, because the first few minutes you're going to get the bullshit. Okay? Yeah, we went here, we went there. In a 2 year period of retirement, they went 6 places, and they talk about them like they do it every week. Okay? But then as you really get talking to somebody, well, the daughter come over and dropped the grandchildren over. This was the same thing that went on in New Jersey. I'd walk up my street, and the retired guys would walk out of the house, and they talk to me because they're around their grandchildren. And they love their grandchildren, but you can just take so many hours of talking to someone that's little. Okay? And once in a while, they would take the grandchildren swimming, or going to the lakes. That died. That was a big thing when I was a kid. Um, Even here, we have some parks that have the frisbee golf. We do have things here, but the people here, they seem to be set in their ways, and I'm trying to get out from under that. Like I said, you tend to go through hobbies that you went through as a kid, and the radio thing. I buy a radio, I gut it, I rebuild, I change the capacitors, you turn it on. There's going to be something wrong with the radio, and then I troubleshoot it and fix it. Now I have another radio. And then I did the Arduino projects. And in the end, you're building a project that you could buy something already built. I got heavily into the antennas on and off for out here. And that's interesting because everybody has a different amount of signal coming to their house. So no antenna is going to fix everybody's problem. The other problem too is when they cut back to power, you don't get enough signal at your house, basically no matter what antenna you put out there to get the station, okay? And then in this area, the stations come from 4 different directions. So to solve my problem, I aimed my antenna at Philly, and that fixed everything, okay? Now I want to tell you, say I get 50 channels. By the time you lock out the religious ones, let's see, you got to lock out the religious ones. You lock out the home shopping ones. You lock out, let's see, religion, home shop. Oh, and ones in Spanish and other languages. You knock them out. I got about 28 channels, okay? And all the duplicates too, like Me TV, Antenna TV, Grit TV, Comet TV. You got them off other channels. So you pick the strongest ones and the clearest ones and lock them out. Now you say, what do you mean the clearest? It's digital. Well, some of the stations are running 5 substations or 4, and that actually slows the processor down. You get like a blurriness to the picture, and sometimes the pixels the screen hangs up. It's not because of my antenna. It's because that station processor power, whatever the problem is. So you knock out some of the dupes, and I'm down to like 28, but that's more than I had before. Because before I had all the channels, I had 30 something, but there were dupes, and there were religious channels, and there were home shopping channels, and there were channels in other languages. So this time I have more channels now. But here, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to cut to the chase onto the television. You have your regular TV channels with mindless sitcoms, and they're not as funny as they used to be. They don't push the edge like they used to because of political correctness. So a lot of your TV programs are dumbed down now. They're not like Married with Children. They don't pick on fat people. They don't pick on Marcy for acting like a chicken. All that stuff's been dumbed down. We don't do that anymore. So the new programs that are coming along really aren't that good. You know, a little chuckle here and there. But at night, all the channels run the same commercial. You know, you got Joe Namath. You got, I always forget, Tom Selleck. They're all pushing certain things. Medicare, Medicaid, your Car Shield. That's a nightmare, that channel. So you got all these stations with the same commercials. And they really trimmed the program down so they could put more commercials. But the programs they're running are old sitcoms. Like last night, I just happened to, they've changed the schedule. So last night was the Dick Van Dyke Show. So I turn it on, and it's the one where she gets her toes stuck in the bathroom the bathroom sink. No, the tub spout. She's like playing with the dripping water, the drop, and her big toe went in there and got stuck. Well, I thought that was a very funny episode when I was a kid, and it is funny. But behind the scenes, she started complaining that she didn't have enough on-time screen time with that episode, and it became a big brouhaha. And you can read about it if you want. So that tarnished. Whenever I read about the actor being a real jerk, it ruins the sitcom for me. Okay. When I found out what a jerk Johnny Carson was, that ruined it for me. Even what was it, Bing Crosby? You know, I used to watch those ones where he had the school for boys and all. And then I found out he was beating his kid with a belt. That ruined that for me. There's so many things, but at night you go through the channels, and it's old stuff, you know. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, my hobby is old radios, building old circuits. You know, the programs I'm watching are old, and one of the secrets in life and being happy and retired is you got to keep moving forward. Well, that's what I'm telling you. I'm trying to look for the next thing. And I've tried so many hobbies. You know, etching glass with hydrochloric acid. I got into these things that were so obscure when I worked at TRW. And the guys were always coming up to me, what are you working on this week? And I would tell them. And, you know, I always tell you I built that spinning drum fax machine. But that's radio. It has to do with shortwave radio. Then for the longest time, I was decoding TV channels, cable TV. I built decoders from scratch. But then I noticed the money for the different television channels, say it was like 6 channels when you were a kid. All the money was funneled into those 6 channels. In case I was in New York, you had ABC, CBS, and NBC. Then you had your independent channels, which was WOR, WNEW, and there was another one. Channel 11, WPIX. So I believe that is 6 channels. And there was also PBS channels and stuff on UHF. But so 6 channels had all the local money pumped into it. All right. Now, as you get more channels, that same amount of money gets spread out. So your channels transmit and own a license. They transmit to a certain group of people to make the license legal. And then they sell the signal to the cable company. That's where they make their money. So a lot of this repack was to cut people off so they'd have to get cable. I know what they're up to. I had enough of this. Like I said, I turned my antenna around to Philly. some affiliate stations during the repack, they increased their signal. So I started getting them here off the back of my antenna. So that's what I'm saying. Well, if I turn my antenna around, I'm going to get at least those 3 new channels. Turned it around. Like I said, I got almost 28, let's just say 28 channels now. But I won't say I moved forward on that. I got more channels, more choices, but they're old programs. Like last night, Andy Griffin's always on at night, and I don't like Aunt B. So I'll turn on and she'll show up. She has to have a certain amount of screen time. I never really paid attention to that. Well, anyway, Andy Griffin was on. And instead of running the regular half-hour episode, they ran the Return to Mayberry, where everybody basically walks through their lines. It's really bad acting. But anyway, it's Return to Mayberry. I put it on. And where's Andy? He's at the gravesite. I think it's someone imitating Aunt B talking to him. Oh, Andy, don't forget. I was like, you know, she's dead. She's dead. She's dead. And I'm watching the Return to Mayberry. I don't have to put up with Aunt B, but there's Andy at the gravesite. Oh, and take care of Opie. And I'm like, oh, come on. What's the odds of that? Well, the odds I switched off. I put on Frasier. I seem to watch that at night before I go to bed. And there are new channels. And last night there were choices. I mean, I could have watched Godzilla again. I did click on it. You know, you watch Godzilla for a few minutes trying to guess what happens next. Oh, is that so poor? Man, as a kid, Godzilla, every time it was on, the one with Raymond Burr, every time it was on, you had to watch it. Try watching it now, okay? They have the moral of, it's basically the atomic bomb moral hidden in the movie. Okay, I don't want to tell you anymore, but in other words, Raymond Burr, and he stands there watching Godzilla. He gets injured. You know, he doesn't think to run. The whole thing's funny. But anyway, yeah, things that you liked when you were a kid, and even into your teens. You know, like I used to be a big Little Rascal fan, and I'd watch that all the time. When I can see those whenever I want on YouTube. Most of the episodes are on there. I had this one guy in a restaurant. Bill Cosby bought up the Little Rascals. That was a bullshit story. And I kept saying to him, do you want the set? The box set? I can get you the box set. No, Bill Cosby bought it up. It's not to be aired. You can't get it. I said, do you want the box set? I said, the box set's like $75. It came out in sections. They used to get Tommy Bond, who played Butch. He used to be on the QVC network. Each time a set of 5 or whatever was released, this guy would not believe me. In his head, he had the bullshit story. I couldn't get it out. But anyway, that was my thing. And he ruined it for me. Because every time I think of the Little Rascals, I think of the guy at the bar when I'm waiting for my sandwich, constantly bringing that up, that Bill Cosby bought up the Little Rascals. And couldn't get that out of his head. Every time he saw me, he had to repeat that same story. So the Little Rascals has been ruined for me. But it is one of the better things when you were a kid to watch, okay? I guess it was targeted for kids. I don't know. I know it was a short that they would play at the theater after a movie or before a movie. And then later on, they put a lot of that stuff on TV, like Flash Gordon, Commander Cody, all that stuff we watched as a kid, but it was made for my parents. But they repackaged it. And a lot of the Westerns, too, that are on the Grit TV. What was the name of the guy? Now I'm going to forget his name. But they have a couple Westerns that were like, no one serials, but they were B movies at the theater. And it was a certain cowboy. And Gray something Theater. I can't think of his name right now. But the other guy was the war hero of World War II. He's got that strange name. Man, I can always pull his name out too. Anyway, they run those movies a lot. John Wayne. But as I'm sitting there watching, I'm like, this is going backwards. I'm going backwards. I want to go forward. You know, I remember the day I could show you stuff like I kept buying batteries and going nuts. And then I found these things. Enoloop. Okay, these are really old batteries. They got to be 7 years old, and they still take a charge. They still work in all my things. That was a step forward, okay? And I bought this charger for it, if you can see that. Um, the helicopter, that's over back over in here. We brought that up from, it usually sits in the living room. This was a pretty good toy. The fun of this lasted 3 months, okay? Until I was able to do a figure eight in the living room. That was it then. That was the goal. And I wish there was something else out there that was as much fun as this. This rivals a toy I got when I was a kid. Okay, looking back on it, like the ripcord. I don't know if you had the ripcord parachute. There were several versions of it, and the ripcord parachute really worked. Okay, we would go over to the football field, climb way up on the bleachers, and if the wind was blowing in the correct direction, we would throw our ripcord parachutes into the air, and they would float and go way out into the field. And the reason you had to make sure the wind was the right way was there was a river behind us. So if you threw it the wrong day, it would go backwards into the river. But that's another fun story. But as you get older, what interest do you have? Like fishing. Why do you go fishing? I did that as a kid. I did that with my friends I worked with. We went fishing, and basically they wanted to go fishing and drink. That was the excuse to drink. And I sort of was sorry I didn't keep fishing with my father. Okay, because I look back on it, and these guys, when I go fishing, they throw the cans into the water. And I keep saying, don't do that when you're with me. It doesn't hurt anything. What a slobs. What slobs, you know what I mean? You take the guy fishing and he's doing jerky things like that. But anyway, I'm looking for a new hobby. I bought that bending brake from Harbor Freight. I still have a few things I can still make, but they always seem to be radio related. Now the antenna, trying to get more stations. The next two stations I could get, one of them is a PBS. I don't know if it's possible, but PBS, I used to really enjoy PBS. But what has become of PBS, it's become more political. There's a lot of the rainforest stuff. See, before they would show you the rainforest and the animals. Now they keep reminding you how there's going to be less rainforest every year. Okay. Everything else is politically motivated, and I know you can't fix anything. It's over with. When you have too many people, there's either going to be a die out and fix it, or the resources like water will become all polluted. You won't be able to find water that's not polluted. Now these people in this area, they think fracking's great. Oh, it lowers our taxes, but it's ruining the drinking water. Yeah, but it lowers our taxes. Oh, fine. Okay? There's a lot of things that when you do one thing, it saves you money, but it does something really bad. And it seems like the majority of people don't really care. It's not that they don't think, they don't care. It's not on their radar. And then when it's on their radar, they become really boring. They keep telling you about it because now it's affecting them. And it's pretty funny. But the COVID was a real eye opener. Okay. The people that was a hoax, it was a hoax. I had a guy screaming at me. Do you know anyone that got it? It's a hoax. And then all of a sudden it started hitting this area. And it got all the hoaxsters, the people that said it was a hoax. And I'd be talking to her, I've seen you, I got the virus. I was like, you're kidding. That's because they didn't wear a mask. They did what they wanted to do, and they got it. I kept dreading getting it. I can't tell you. I told you once before, I had pneumonia. It lasted a full 6 months where I couldn't really walk that well, that far. And it was horrible, just sitting there day after day, watching the sun come up in one window and go down in another window. And I had a couple older people that had it, and they warned me. They said, when you get older, you get pneumonia really bad. And I did. And then I never went for the shot every year. Okay? But that year that I got that was amazing. Oh, it was that bad. But I learned my lesson with that. Now, I was a little run down at the time. I was very busy with the booklets and all that. I was burning the candle at both ends. And then I got a cold, and I'm standing outside with the neighbors. And one of them says, there's fire engines in the background again. Unbelievable. That's the other thing. But anyway, I was sitting out there with the neighbors, and I had a cold, and the neighbor says, you're getting old, you got to watch out that a bad cold can go into pneumonia. And it did. But it wasn't a bad cold. It was actually the flu. But yeah, when you do a video, I'm going to tell you one real quick. You can count on there being a fire in the background. Sometimes someone ringing my doorbell in my house, whether they really want me or they're just someone selling stuff. What was the other thing? A smoke detector just going off by itself. There's a whole. That's why when people make fun of your videos or make fun of my videos, it really aggravates me because in order to do a video, you have to have an idea what you want to say. Now, what I'm doing now is word videos. Okay, you might get a chuckle. You talk too much. I get it. Fine. This video it didn't hurt me to make this video. Okay, it wasn't. I had to wait for a part for 2 weeks that kept getting shipped between Harrisburg and Philly, back and forth. I've tracked it, and finally it made it to my house. All that to make a video to show someone how to save some money on a radio. Those days are gone. I deleted the videos. Okay, now that information is not out there. Okay, the person's going to have to suffer or put the thing away. Okay, I suffered through a lot of repairs because parts are hard to find now, and you got to find a way around different things. So I think I've said about enough for today. I just wanted to tell you about retirement. I'm going to warn you, you better really plan. And most people I've asked, how long did the fun of retirement last? And they said after a few weeks they were bored out of their mind. Okay, it wasn't what they thought it was. Now I was reading the other day, someone says it takes 2 years to calm down. All right, 2 years before the stress goes out of your body from working. You know how many people don't make it past the first year of retirement? They die. That I was reading that. I'm like, well, I guess some people just don't de-stress fast enough. But it's different than what you'll ever expect. And if you're taking care of your grandchildren every day, you're not retired, okay? Someone says, well, I'm retired. You're taking care of your grandchildren. That's a job, okay? Let's see you not repair a radio every day or take a radio. See, that's what I was doing. I was buying a radio on eBay that's broken, rebuilding it, recapping it, getting it working, putting it in the closet or putting it in the other room. Next radio, that's a job. You're working. That's a job. That's not a hobby. And someone says, yeah, that is a hobby. Oh, what are you? You're crazy? No, it's actually a job. Okay? You don't get paid, but you're going through what you used to do when you worked. So basically, you're killing time, and in your mind, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Meanwhile, you're standing there fixing an old radio that's from the past. And that's what I'm telling you right now. You got to be in the moment, and you got to try to move forward being retired. Try it. It's real hard. I bet 1% of the people that retire actually do it. Okay? That's my goal now. And I told you I did spend the last few weeks thinking about, I'm still thinking about, when they repack these channels, but the product, let's look at the product of television. At night, what I got here, same commercials on every channel, and old TV shows from when I was a kid. Now, if I can get PBS, yes, they'll show you a new scientific breakthrough, something like that. I don't get that on these local channels, man. It's pathetic here. All right? But that's what I'm going through. And a lot of you guys are like, what are you up to? Yeah, I stay busy. But there's 2 hours at the end of the night where I sit. I have TV on. And it doesn't entertain me like it used to. The television used to be my best friend. And then I started building TV decoders. And I had every channel available from my cable company because I had all these decoders and everything. And I sat there and I'm like, this stuff sucks. This isn't funny. This isn't entertaining. And I realized I was getting older. You become more jaded. The money for the television is being spread out between so many channels that to get a hit show, it's really tough now. And you have all these streaming services. They're streaming old television shows. See, they don't want to run certain television shows for free on these old stations, like Seinfeld. They want you to stream them. Sex and the City, they want you to stream it. Okay? They were on TV for a while, and then they pulled them. Like, I bought the box set. I always mention this. Northern Exposure. Probably one of the better television programs ever produced, if you like that program. Now, if you don't like the fact that a Jewish doctor comes from New York, gets basically hoodwinked into working in Alaska to pay off his tuition from college or medical school, you're not going to like it. All right? And it's not going to do it for you. But if you get into the craziness of the characters, why they're like that, they're in Alaska, and the series, you can go deeper into it. The series was shot in Washington, D.C., because they needed the daylight. If you actually shot it in Alaska, it would be dark half the year, whatever it is. But anyway, there's actually the town that's still there. People go visit it. It's like sort of like a cult classic. I bought the box set, and when things really get slow, I reach into the box set at random. I pull out one of the discs. It's each box is multiple discs, and I select a disc and I sit it in there, and I go through the menu and try to find the one I think I want to watch. Okay, and I put that on, and I think that each episode's 25 minutes long, something like that, because they allow for commercials. And maybe it was an hour show. I don't know. Anyway, I put it on, and then I've watched them so many times. I sort of know the jokes, but the program is quite interesting and funny. And then there's certain places on an episode I might have zoned out when I was watching it. So the next time I watch it, I see a part I don't remember. And that's one of my go-to things. And then I had some old movies, and I told you last video, some guy bought 3 of my movies, so I know him. He was over working at a house doing an odd job, and I walked over there. I gave him my movies, my DVDs that I was going to sell at the yard sale. They didn't sell. I gave them to him. Told him to watch them, pass them on to somebody else, or sell them. I don't know at that point. But that's what I was doing. One of my hobbies was at yard sales. I go around and get DVD movies and baseball caps. I actually wear a baseball cap when I'm out walking, and they get quite soiled because I do sweat a lot. And that was the 2 things I look for. Once in a while, years ago when I first got here, somebody would have a brand new DVD burner in a box, and they never installed it. You know how that works, right, guys? Huh? You buy a DVD burner, and you never get to install it. And then by the time you go to install it, it won't work with the Windows version that you got. So you put it at the yard sale, and I come along because I'm always one step behind on software, like Windows. Now, I'm on Windows 10. I don't like it. I have Windows 10. But normally, I always try to stay one version behind. And I get all these bargains and stuff. But that's what I'm up to. And I just want to tell you again about retirement. It's not going to be what you expect. And the COVID really got my neighbor. I mean, he just retired. He goes to breakfast with his brother, even though, because he's not going to get his shots. His brother's got prostate cancer. It's just, I won't go into all these details, but it was a really bad year for a lot of people in the neighborhood. Every time you start talking to someone, they didn't lose their job. One neighbor's got ALS. It was a bad year. Let me just put it that way. As I walk around, people, they're wigging out because they're stuck at home, and then some of them actually get more money than when they're working. There's a lot going on because of the COVID, so it wasn't a normal year. Things are starting to get back to normal, because I got that big Dutch Wonderland near me, and that basically, I don't say it shut totally down, but it really dampened it. A lot of the stores up in the bad mall that's doing bad, they closed, okay? And we have a lot of new stores going in. They knocked a bunch of older stores down on the highway, and they're putting new ones in. So this area is still doing good financially. It's based on farming and things like that that'll still be around. I think that's it. All right, that's it.